Hello and welcome to Heather and Hops. My name is Kat and I'm a knitter based in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. If you're new here, welcome. If you're here as a returning viewer, I find that strange. Connector, I have to think of a nice phrase for that. Then it's lovely to see you again. Little Audrey has been sat here all morning and recently went outside, so hopefully she'll return. If you don't know who Audrey is, she is my cat and spends almost every waking hour by my side on that sofa, which currently has my shawl on, but that's enough of the story. Up front, I guess, today I'm wearing my ranunculus knit in Rawak DK. This is still one of my favourite garments. I absolutely love it. I think it used 2.5 skeins and I do still have 2.5 skeins of it left, and whether I end up knitting another one of these in the future or I do have my eye on a shawl that I might knit, and that was, I can't remember the pattern, but it's gorgeous and I think it's called something about forest, a walk in the forest. I probably got that wrong, but I will pop a picture of it on screen. And this was a new to me designer who actually, can't remember how, sent a message, liked an Instagram post or something, and I instantly felt drawn to her designs. So it's just a lovely designer worth checking out. And this is my spiritual guardian cowl, which actually I've been really cold all morning. And I'm starting to get quite warm, so I might end up taking it off, but it's so snuggly. This was knit using fibre spates. It's like a high twist merino and dropped mohair, and I'm moving away from this sort of yarn, but I definitely am going to use this as much as I possibly can because I really love it. It's got some ribbing, but I tuck it away when I don't need such covering. And I also have a cup of coffee. I hope you have a beverage of sorts. This is a Horsham Coffee Christmas blend still. We are nearly done. And by that I mean we've nearly finished it already. It's a lovely blend. And this is a cup that I actually made. I know it's a bit strange, but I really like it. I made it at a local pottery. Excuse me. A lovely lady called, oh my goodness, my brain, I believe her name's Charlotte, has a studio in her, basically in her garden. She's got a little, small little studio space, and she taught every week for 6 weeks, I think it was, she taught different types of making items, so from rolling things flat, increasing them up to pinch pots, and this is what I came up with. She kept trying to make me make my cups really big, and I think this is about as small as I was able to get because she's like, it's going to shrink, it's going to shrink. I was like, I don't need a big cup for my coffee, I like small coffees. But I really love this cup, and the glaze I think's beautiful. But anyway, let's talk knitting. So I'm still trying to play catch up, and like I said, I get quite tired, I guess, if I talk for too long and trying to remember things, and we are trying to remember things here, and we're going a bit back in time. So I'm not going to talk about all of my gift knitting for Christmas. I'm not going to be able to. Most of them are socks, and most of the socks will be vanilla socks. So some 1x1 ribbing cuff down, stockinette for the leg and the insole, and then a fish lips kiss heel done in garter stitch, and a rounded toe, or just a toe that would basically be an afterthought heel. I'm not sure what we would call them around here, but very simple socks. And I did make Flynn, who is my sister's son, my nephew, Eddie, and who is her boyfriend, and my dad socks in the Hollyberry colourway by West Yorkshire Spinners, and most of that was used from Alex's wedding yarn, so that made it quite special. And by wedding yarn I mean the socks he knitted himself and wore at our lovely little wedding, which was really sweet. And it's a shame we didn't get a close-up of his feet that day. There is some shots where he's sort of on a swing, and you can see a little peek of his knitted socks, and it's pretty cool. But I wanted to share these ones. And now Alex has worn these loads, and I was knitting on a pair of socks for myself. In fact, I haven't shown them. Let's mix it up and do a bit of a mix. We'll talk about these now because the yarn is special. And like I said, I'm hoping to move away from superwash yarn. I've been talking about it on and off since I started knitting, since I discovered the process, and there's no judgment on anyone that wants to or anything like that. It's just, oh, hello Audrey. Hey, Audrey has arrived. But I was working on these socks, and I've got a complete one, so I'll show you that. So they're shorty socks with, it's so fun, mohair held with them. And this is just a pattern recipe that I didn't change much from normal. It's got a slightly rounded toe, it's got a fish lips kiss garter heel so it's nice and squishy, some ribbing and seed stitch for the rest. And I really liked it. I liked the texture, and I let Alex try them on and he was like, whoa, and really taken back, and that kind of made me quite excited. This yarn, I think I've only got the ball for this, and this is Platinum Sock by Lovebug Yarns, which is dyed by, oh I do know the colourway, by Diana in Scotland. And the colourway is Moody Jewels, and that totally makes sense, especially when you see it knitted up with this mohair. The mohair was a gift from Becky, one of my best friends, for my 30th birthday. So this was a gift that was sent from our lovely knitting group. And I say lovely knitting group like it's just a few of us. There is 150 of us in our Discord group, and I say ours because although it's my server and I do my best to run it, and I have a lovely group of girls that are taking charge of admin and helping keep everyone not in check, but if someone's got a question and they're in America, there's always someone that pops in and says, oh, you can find when we have our virtual knit nights, and it's amazing. So very kind. So these two yarns are very special because they are gifted from very special occasions to me. My 30th birthday and to celebrate our wedding, and combined this fabric is really good. I wanted to knit a pair of socks for around the house that will keep me nice and toasty, and it does go quite well with mine. And these have done or are doing the trick perfectly. And what I did is I got really into it and carried on knitting until I got to the heel, and I've not knit on them, not because I wasn't enjoying it, and I've opted for the seed stitch to magic loop, and I might invest in a set of DPNs for socks. I think I'm now at a point where I would enjoy them, but I think 4-inch needles. But we'll talk maybe more about that later. Hey you, you're gonna come up to your bed? Let's see if we can stop her clawing. So they're living in this little bag that actually Becky, my best friend that gifted the mohair, made for me for Christmas last year. But I hadn't knit on the heels because I was hoping Alex has got 2 socks ready for heels, and I thought I would show him how to do them himself on this pair. But what I will do is do one for him while he does the other. I think it will be easier for him to see what I'm doing in the same yarn that he's using. So that's quite exciting. Alex will have a pair of socks fairly soon. As soon as he's got the heel, they'll knit off quickly again, because he did the leg of a sock and the cuff in maybe 2 evenings. quite amazing. So anyway, he really loved these socks, so I decided to knit a pair for him for Christmas, but this was just 3 days before Christmas. And in our Discord chat we had a lot of talk about DK weight socks, and I thought, you know what, let's do it. So this was, again, very special yarn. My lovely friend Dimmy sent it all the way from the Netherlands to me for Sinterklaas, which is amazing. Very, very kind of her. And the mohair is a yarn I've had in my stash for quite a while, and I'm not happy to disclose who it's by. But I held the yarn, the sock yarn double, and got about a DK gauge using mohair as well. They're not the densest socks, and I opted to knit them a bit looser because I did think that the mohair would help make them felt, and the bottom is felting already. And they knit up in maybe 3 hours for the pair. Like, I'm talking so quick. So if you are after making some DK socks, I do recommend it, and I do recommend experimenting. Again, in our Discord chat, lovely Lydia, who is amazing at keeping questions answered and sharing processes and things, has written up her basic recipe, which is very kind. I did a seed stitch one, and Alex, well, he's worn them a lot, so they are going in the wash. I probably shouldn't be touching them, but yeah, I thought I would share them and sort of not encourage, but encourage experimentation. And if you are after a Christmas gift knit or a birthday gift knit, these might be up there. But like I said, I would probably go down a needle size. For me, from memory, I might have used a 4mm. I might go down to a 3.75. But yeah, that is them. So mostly for Christmas I did do a lot of socks. I did some hats, one which is wrapped up, and I do have a photograph of it somewhere, but I will share that when I do find the photograph, because like Alex says, it's very strange you talk about so many things that you don't have. Alex is my husband, if you're new here, and he is very good at keeping me in check. No, that's the wrong way to phrase it. He doesn't keep me in check, but he's very good at oh, here she comes. Hey, Audrey. Okay. Now I'm filming a little bit earlier today than I normally would, meaning maybe I'm a little bit wafflier, because I haven't had any caffeine. So hopefully in 20 minutes, which I still might be talking and it might be a bit clearer, yeah, I'll become a little bit more clear. Right, and I've been excited to share this project with you for quite some time, and I might pull out the book because it is just behind me. This is a project from Knits About Winter, which is a book published by Pom Pom magazine, but in collaboration with Emily Foden, and Emily designed all of the designs, all of the patterns. She is the yarn dyer behind Viola and the Moon, or Viola Yarns, and she even did all the photography, and it is outstanding. It is a gorgeous book, and I recently spent long enough in the bath to read through all of the sort of the writing in it, which was really, really lovely. And I knitted the East Wind jacket, which I wanna, and that is this one here. And I knit it using West Yorkshire Spinners Jacob fleece in the DK, which is one of my favourite commercial yarns. It is so sheepy and smells amazing, if you ask me. I personally, I'm not, as I say, I'm not susceptible to itchy or scratchiness of yarns particularly, or at all potentially, and I find it lovely. And I held that with drops mohair, and again I'm really going to try and move away from that. I think in future, if I want to use mohair, I will continue to use Whistlebear because I've seen it, I know how it's produced, I know that it's just a lot more in line with my values, but that will mean that I will be knitting less because it is pricier, but I think for me that is important going forward, is doing what I feel is truly right rather than knitting what I'd like just because I can. Anyway, that's not to say that anyone else shouldn't, because I think life is trying enough without, you know, if it's what you can knit, then you should. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I bought the toggles that I used from Wool Warehouse because it has toggles and that is so exciting to me. But here it is. I will put in some, I think I've got some video footage of it. And I must say, it's got, not freezing, it's still not really icy cold, but we've had days where it's been sort of -2 degrees. Yet it's not been particularly frosty. It's very strange to me. We've had a couple of days, but not many. And this has been warm enough for me to wear with my Whistlebear jumper, or actually the jumper that I'm going to show you next, and this shawl here, my Scotland shawl, or this very simple, I think it's called the grain shawl. I will try, I'll pop it on the screen anyway, which is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, and it was the first shawl I think I ever knitted, and these are all bits of, not necessarily leftovers, but they are all sort of leftovers from DK skeins, and I just knit it as big as I could, which in hindsight could be bigger, but it's perfect with this shawl, with this jacket. Yeah, so I didn't do many modifications on this at all. I followed the pattern as suggested. I think I did my twisted stitches slightly different, and I actually have to admit I ironed, not intentionally, long story, but I ironed a part of this, but it's totally fine that you can still see the texture come into us, just not maybe as much as you once could. And so I knit the length for and the size for the smallest size, and I don't think I'd change anything. I might have added, did I add? Or I might have reduced a little bit of length in the arm, and that is only because I didn't need any extra length. It was otherwise going to potentially be too long, which might sound strange given that it's a coat, but it's the perfect length on me. And the only other thing that I adjusted was the width of the opening at the top. I should have remembered that I had looked on Emily's own project page, and she shared it on her Instagram a long time ago, and I was like, right, I must remember these are the modifications that I want to make, and sadly I forgot. So when it all comes down to it, I didn't get to make the modifications that I had hoped initially, and had to do it at the end. So I ended up sewing an extra 2.5, perhaps even 3 inches either side on the shoulders up, because otherwise it would have been really wide. Like, I would have probably struggled to keep it on my shoulders, and I don't think I'm particularly narrow, but I know that they do slope down. So I think it was a brilliant, modification, and I thought, well, it's a coat and I want it to be snugly and close, and sewing it up has made it perfect for the task. I think I need to adjust this toggle loop to be up slightly and this other toggle to sit in line with it, just so that it closes a bit better. At the moment, it's not an issue because I'm wearing it with cowls and shawls and things, but it does open a bit and it just looks a little bit off. So I'm going to adjust that. But other than that, there's nothing that I need to change or would change on this. It is it's a nice project because it's knit in bits. It's knit flat in sections. I would have probably been happy to knit it even throughout the warmer months. It would have got warm, but it wouldn't have been unmanageable because they're not the hugest of pieces. You actually seam the two back pieces up the middle. This is still something I'm working on doing, is improving this. And that is part of my sort of knitting journey over the next 9 months until I move on to techniques from around the world, which I'm really excited for and I would like to start gathering information on. But seaming is something that I would love to continue to learn and do, so I'm going to consciously try and keep adding those sort of projects into my knitting. But yeah, if you're looking for a coatigan or a cardi coat, this is a great project, and I actually think it's going to last me years and years and years, and should for any reason it not be my cup of tea, I can't imagine that ever being the case. I think it would be a perfect thing to pass on as almost like a heirloom. Heirloom, not a heirloom. But yeah, I really love this. The contrast is just a light grey Jacob, which I must say is softer than the normal Jacob. So if you are a little bit more susceptible to itchy yarns, I would suggest, if you're after a Jacob or a light grey affordable DK, I would suggest maybe purchasing a single skein of it and seeing how you get on. Also I believe it's Blue Face Leicester, because I got this a little bit mixed up in the past. The light brown is really soft too, perhaps even softer than the light grey, just in case you're on the lookout. But yeah, overall I love this project. I kind of wish I had an excuse to knit it again. Maybe I can knit one as a gift somewhere down the line in the future. Should I be able to afford the yarn? I mean, this was a very affordable project actually for its size, and considering how much yarn it used. I think it was 5 or 6 skeins of the Jacob, which is £6, and then the similar amount for the mohair, and I actually think I have a skein or ball of the mohair left, which is £3. So even using Whistlebare, which get a bit more meterage, it would, you know, yeah, gorgeous. Anyway, I will stop swooning over this at some point in the future, but I really love it, and I love the whole book. It took a lot not to cast on the barn sweater, which I'll quickly show you, because I'm on the hunt for some DK patterns, and I will come to that because I've not just found one, I've been very, very, very kindly gifted one. I would like to knit up another soiree at some point when my soiree eventually fails me, which I don't think it will in any time soon, but in a more rustic yarn and in a DK weight, so it's a bit bigger. And this is the barn sweater, which is very sort of plain, but I really liked it. Again, I think this is knit with an interesting construction, and Emily loves her positivities, and that is something that I'm looking to continue to add, because oversized with my linen trousers is just, or culottes. I quite like my short culottes. Anyway, gorgeous pattern, gorgeous book, gorgeous outcome. Gonna hit pause quickly. I always inform you when I'm doing that, just because I tend not to edit my videos in terms of cropping out weird and wonderful things I say. So I'm going to do that. So going from long-term project, which the East Wind jacket I purchased the yarn for long before I cast it on. It was going to be a New Year's pattern, not this year, last year, and then I waited before casting it on, and then spent 6 months or so nurturing the pattern or the project. This knitted up way too quickly, but it was mindfully simple. It was a yarn that I really love using, and this is the anniversary sweater or jumper, and I think I had cast on like this much of a sleeve, and I've gone from that to, and I must say I haven't blocked and don't block things at the moment. Oh, this goes good. And that is mostly because I keep wearing things as soon as they come off the needles and then want to continue wearing them. But this is, like I said, the anniversary sweater by Vedis. John, I will pop the name down below. It is a gorgeous Icelandic name, and I do have a friend that speaks Icelandic, so I will ask him for advice on pronunciation and do my best to respect that. But I have finished it, and this was knit using Letslopey by Istex, and these were yarns that I had in my wool pantry for quite some time, and I kept looking at the bag of yarn, and this was mostly all kept together. I tend to organise things slightly strangely, I think, but potentially not. And I was just sat at my laptop and I clicked on my Ravelry library and I saw this, and for some reason I was like, that's it, that's the yarn, that's I've got the perfect combination. And immediately I knew that my gauge would be fine in the recommended needle size. I've knit in Letslopey, not loads and loads, but quite a bit. It is one of my favourite affordable yarns again, in terms of commercial yarns. In terms of commercial yarns. It's hard wearing. I find it not scratchy. I can wear it against my skin. And it lasts, it really does, and it's incredibly warm. So I do only have, I've actually got sort of 8 ball bands, but I've only got 2 of the colours, and they are 423, 9423 and 9421. But, and I haven't put the rest on my Ravelry page, but I am going to try and do my best to today, while I also create a bundle for some DK weight sweaters that I was recommended from yourself and other knitters, both on Instagram and YouTube. I will create a bundle today for those, but I will also do my best to sort of match these colours, just because I'm really impressed. I'm really pleased that it's come together as well as it has. I adjusted the section slightly, so I believe it's got 6 rows in each of these colours, and a few more of the dark, but this was intentional. And I adjusted the neckband not very difficultly. I just knitted half of what it said and then did a bind off in the colour that I had chosen for the colour work, and I'd cast on in. Well, I had 2 greys and I had 1 cream, and I almost was going to use the cream to do, but I never wanted to use the cream if I could avoid it, and I ended up with this much, and I'm not exaggerating, I've got a picture, but I can't find the piece of yarn. I think Audrey's been playing with it. I played Yarn Chicken, and it paid off, because this is, to me, it's perfect. I almost did a tubular bind off, opted not to. I just didn't see the point in this yarn, really, if I'm honest. But I did a normal stretchy bind off, and I'm really happy with the outcome. I think these patterns, and the fact this pattern is free is unbelievable. There's so many different variations on the charts, including kid size and adult sizes for free, which is just so you could have a whole family of sweaters, which would be so cool. I kind of wish my family would be into wearing this yarn. Maybe I will, next time I see them, encourage my mother and sister to sit with this for a bit and see if they would, because it would be really fun to do matching jumpers that aren't Christmassy and just for, you know, not that you can't wear Christmassy jumpers, but it's a bit more of a challenge to wear non-Christmassy, like, it's a bit easier to wear non-festive jumpers, and there's so many colours in the Letslopey yarn that I think we could really do some lovely things with it. Yeah, it was a bottom-up pattern, which I quite enjoyed. It was kind of fun knitting very mindful and relaxing stockinette and then getting to do the colour work and then binding off straight away. But it was strange to knit colour work with the rest of the sweater underneath it. Not difficult or like non-enjoyable, but just I was very aware that it was different. I did weave in most of my ends for a change, but there are a few that still remain. I actually believe, yeah, I've had this jumper knitted for, I don't know, year and a half, and I haven't. I'm going to make more of an effort to do so, but going forward, but I quite like it. It's almost like if the item should get a hole in it or will need darning, it's kind of like having a backup. That's kind of a way I've justified it, and I don't know if that's a good way of justifying it or not. What do you think? Yeah, so with that, I have had this, and I've not had it for that long, to be honest. I've had it for a good few months, so maybe 3 or 4 months. I've had this Ewan Ply Shropshire yarn, and they have, I can read it out to you. For your amusement and delectation, we have gathered pedigree Shropshire fleeces and blended them to produce this bouncy yarn perfect for knitting and crochet. Locally brought to you by Ewan Ply and spun by the Halifax Spinning Company. And it's a DK weight yarn. The colour is called Middle Earth, which speaks to me so much. And it's sort of a lovely oatmeal grey. And I've been asking and looking and trying to figure out the perfect jumper, and I've got, and I say this quite a bit, I do have some jumpers that I would like to pay forward and make my wardrobe truly my own. And I mentioned last episode about farm emo, and I've started a Pinterest board, and that's not normally my thing, to see if I can collate and start to really find what makes my heart sing. And it's actually working, and I knew that I wanted this yarn to have to be used in some sort of cables, and I've got another version of this yarn in a grassy green, but I haven't opted for this, even though the pattern that was recommended on my last video by Amanda, thank you so much, who is a lark ascending on Ravelry and has a gorgeous choice in shawls and cardigans especially, sent me a link to Braids of Grass by LB Hand Knits, and I was instantly taken back. And that's not to say patterns aren't amazing, but for some reason it really stuck with me, and I was really taken back. And that, like I said, that doesn't kind of happen in that way too often. I was just like, whoa. And it's just beautiful. It's got cables, and I'll pop a picture one of these sides. And I kind of straight away knew that was what this had to be. It was just one of those perfect moments of synchronicity, and I was like, wow. I will do, like I said, a bundle of the recommended DK jumpers, because I think it's really useful to be able to scroll through and just see a collection together of what one yarn could be, and recommended by so many different style knitters and people with different styles. I think it's really cool to get that much of a variation in the pattern recommendations. So I will do that, and I'll pop the link down below, which should, in theory, have everything that I've spoken about. I'd really do my best, and if there isn't, for some reason there's something that I've missed, never feel like you can't ask me on here or on Instagram. I do my best to keep up. And Amanda was too sweet, thank you so much, and gifted me the pattern after I said that I would be really, really excited to knit it. So I just found a bit of yarn chicken yarn. She did play with it. Here it is. Look, there's nothing. Okay. Yeah, it's like gotta be 10 centimeters, maybe a bit more. And Amanda sent the pattern to me last night, and I'm currently working on a project that I accidentally cast on, and not accidentally, very intentionally cast on, but has accidentally taken up a lot of my brain space and a lot of my time, and I'm so excited by it, but for now it's going to remain a little bit of a secret. But I thought, take a moment away from that and swatch, and I did. I had already pre-wound one skein when I got the yarn, because I found that if I do that straight away I get a little bit of an idea more of what, like, how the yarn's going to react and what I might want it to be, and I did straight away. I was like, this has to be a jumper. And when we got into bed last night, I did a little swatch. It's not huge, but I find that, to me, row gauge isn't as important, so I like to cast on a few extra stitches in width and do quite a bit. And because when you're knitting a top-down jumper, you can just keep adding, but it's a bit difficult to add width. So to me it seems stitch gauge is a bit more important than row gauge. So I did a little swatch last night, and I'm going to do my best to start keeping my swatches and writing down notes, because I think for me that's, I don't know, it feels right at the moment. It feels like it will make my knitting going forward more intentional. I'll be able to reflect a bit easier. I'll be able to see, you know, should I end up purchasing this yarn again, I've got an idea of how it looks. This is a 4.5mm needle that I used here. So I've got an idea of how it feels. And actually, I've got to say, I really like this material. I haven't checked that it meets gauge yet, but I thought I end up going down a needle size, and I think it's because visually I used to prefer a denser looking fabric, and now I'm in this place where I appreciate a little bit of movement in my yarn, in my fabric. It might be too loose. I need to check that, like I said, especially since it's got cables in, but really happy with this fabric. And if for some reason this is not right, I might be inclined to knit the grassy green yarn that I've got of this at this slightly drapier gauge. But yeah, I spent a little bit of time looking at Shropshire fleece, and I discovered that sheep, they are the oldest pedigree registered breed in the UK, which I thought was quite interesting. They are a tri-purpose breed, so they are very, very useful to us as humans, both as food and yarn. I don't eat meat, but you know. So it makes them very sustainable. They also, I discovered, tend to leave trees alone, which is really important in terms of sustainability. One of Monica, who I talk about a lot, whose farm we stay at, mentioned that that's why sheep can be a problem in the past, and that kind of made me happy to know that the dominant fleece in this yarn is not a hindrance to our trees. So I thought that was quite interesting. They're quite cute. They're black in terms of feet, nose, ears, face, and then they have fluffy cream yarn. And yeah, I just thought that was quite interesting, and I'm going to start doing my best to have a little look into the breeds a bit more as I'm knitting, because I find that that makes you feel more connected, and I think that's really cool. And yeah, so I'm trying to do my best to note down things a little bit as I go now, because I often miss information that I'd love to share with you and thoughts as I go. So I'm gonna, again, just in my hope to move more intentionally throughout this year, I'm going to intentionally try and write notes as I go, so that I can ensure that I share what I want to. But see, I've got my book. So the first thing I wanted to say is a big thank you. I opened a Ko-Fi because I recently gifted for a week patterns, a single pattern to any knitter that wanted it, and as a sort of, hey, we're probably not going to get to hang out very much, let's at least connect through knitting, which is so important to me, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I've had from learning to knit. So thank you so much should you have taken advantage of that. It's really cool to be able to share and connect through it. And I had a few messages saying that's very kind, I would love to give back to you, and that's, again, almost made me cry. In fact, it did make me tear a bit. And a few had mentioned maybe doing a Ko-Fi or a Patreon. I don't feel comfortable yet offering a Patreon. I'm a little bit awkward anyway. Anyone that knows me, if it's my birthday or Christmas, I love to open gifts very slowly with care and can't express my gratitude as well as I would like to, other than with a big squeeze, which is very difficult at the moment. So asking and accept is very hard. So I took the leap and opened a Ko-Fi, and I'm so grateful, or coffee. I like Ko-Fi because it's like lo-fi. But and I'm really grateful for the support. Actually, it's going to make doing these sort of longer term projects a whole lot easier on me going forward. And the project that I'm trying to work on at the moment is a no nylon sock project. I'm hoping when two of the other makers release their yarn next updates, I'll be able to purchase it with the lovely Ko-Fi support, and do a comparison of 3, perhaps even 4 now, no nylon socks, and I will probably knit 2 pairs for me and 2 pairs for Alex, and we will wear them authentically as we do, and then year on year I will be able to do a comparison of how they've lasted, because I think that's really useful. And it's not necessarily to say, oh, this yarn's better than this, it's to say this is the difference. If you maybe did this or that, then this might be better for you, things like that. And yeah, I think this is a really interesting project to me. I will probably knit them at a slightly tighter gauge than I normally knit my socks, as a way to try and keep them strong. I initially thought I'd knit them at the same gauge, but not that I don't think that's fair, but I think I would like to be knitting my socks that I knit at a tighter gauge anyway to keep them stronger. I should say I've never had any socks get a hole in. I've always done a fish lips kiss heel or a heel flap and gusset. I used to do afterthought heels, and again, not even those have failed me yet, which I find quite amazing, but I think I do knit them fairly tightly which is surprising as a loose knitter, but I've always gone down to 2mm or 2.25mm. So I think I will stick to 2mm for socks going forward. Yeah, I think this will be quite an interesting project. I know that quite a lot of us in the community are trying to head towards no nylon or more sustainable yarns, and I think this is a great sort of exercise in doing so. And yeah, I think I had one lovely message and didn't realise that people could be that allergic to synthetic fibres and cause like health problems. So I think actually for that side of things it would be really interesting to see what lasts and how well it does, because I do firmly believe that it will. My kind of heart always says nature is best. So hopefully we'll see that. We might not, but I think this will be a really interesting project, and I'm very grateful that knitters and non-knitters have kindly enough supported and, you know, bought me a coffee on Ko-Fi to help purchase this yarn to do this project. So there's a big heartfelt thank you, and I really mean it. Oh, and so does little Audrey. I know that one person in particular bought Audrey a coffee. She won't be having coffee, but she might have a token teaspoon of Greek yogurt, which is her favourite. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about very quickly is knitting needle cases. I recently shared on Instagram that I was hoping to update my case. I actually have one spare of these, so if anyone is looking for a needle case and needs one, please feel free to send me a message. I think it can be posted in the UK as a large letter. So I'd be more than happy to pay it forward. And the one pattern I was recommended for sewing was by, I will get it right, Shop Love Lee on Etsy, and I'll pop a link to it. And it's a £6 pattern, which I think is very fair, very reasonable. And the pattern looks lovely. I would probably have to make adjustments for it and knit it twice the width. But I'm trying to think of ways to repurpose this. Now, I've actually noticed when I opened this earlier, this one doesn't have its partner, so that must be in my notions drawer. At least I should hope. And I'm sure that's because this needle case just doesn't do the job I want it to do. This is all well and good, the Velcro here, but it still slides out no matter kind of what you do. So I'm going to look to repurpose. Initially I thought just a tiny strip of Velcro along the top, that might keep it all in place. I'm not particularly fond of the way this looks anyway. It doesn't sing to me. So if you have any ideas, I'd be really interested in hearing. What I might do is somehow put this into a different type of roll and see if I can improve on it staying in. Perhaps something that is actually sewn all the way along, that's not quite as deep. I don't know. But I would really like to reuse it and repurpose it, because it seems such a shame to just start again when there's something in this I just can't quite figure. And the more I'm thinking of it, maybe having a thin bit of Velcro on the top is enough, and that's all it needs to improve this. But it's a bit frustrating that it's, you know, it's a well-made thing that comes with the product, and yeah, it just falls apart and you end up with things missing. But not missing, hopefully, just in the bottom of a drawer. But yeah, any thoughts on this would be really great to hear. Even if you think actually reuse the zips, take it apart and start from scratch with the fabric that I've got sort of in the house. Yeah, any thoughts would be really, really interesting. And I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. It's been really nice to sit and have a chat. I don't know that I've got too much life updates, really. We've got our housemates probably moving out again. Well, she is moving out again at the end of the month, which is kind of sad. So we are looking for someone to move in with us, which I find, if I'm honest, totally anxiety inducing given the current climate in the world and Alex and I's health being what it is. But there's that. It means that my living room's going to have a few less plants in it, which is quite sad. But not an issue in the whole grand scheme of things. And yeah, like I said, I'm working on one project in particular that is making my heart absolutely sing. It's an incredibly intentional project which is making my heart sing, even more so perhaps. And yeah, I hope to be able to share that with you quite soon, because I don't know, I'm very happy with it, and I don't like to keep secrets, but I want to keep this a little bit of a secret for now because it's quite, yeah. And yeah, anyway, I hope you have had a lovely time sat here, hopefully with your knitting and a beverage of sorts. I'm going to go and I think have a cup of chai or perhaps a glass of turmeric milk with some black pepper and honey. Kind of feel like something anti-inflammatory and cosy would be a nice way to spend the rest of this morning, perhaps with a spot more knitting. And yeah, I hope that you are having a fairly peaceful and calm start to the year. I know that it's not been easy for so many, and if there's anything I can do, please don't feel like you can't chat, even if it is just, like I say, having a chat. I'm very much here, I'm very much around. Oh, and one more thing on the Ko-Fi. So for every cup of coffee that's purchased, I want to be able to put patterns aside to gift. So if you are struggling at the moment and you didn't manage to catch the code for the free pattern, please send me a message either on Instagram, Ravelry, or an email. I do check my emails probably more than I check either Instagram or Ravelry at the moment. I just find it a little bit easier to, there's not the social side of it particularly. Like the distractions, if that makes sense, of, oh, new patterns, oh, the world is what it is. But please feel free to send me a message and I will gladly send you a copy of a pattern of your choosing. I think we're already up to over 20 patterns, so I do have them available. And yeah, I hope that you do find some time to sit down and knit. I hope that if there's another creative outlet that you want to learn, you might take a moment to explore that. I hope that you maybe feel inspired to be a bit more intentional, and I hope that you send some love out into the world to your friends, your family, and to yourself. And I hope to see you again very, very soon.